Confidence is quiet strength rooted in humility, while arrogance is a loud insecurity disguised as power. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Leader's Realm podcast, where each week we dive deep into the principles and practices that drive the activation of a beast mode mindset. I'm your host, Tony Cammarata, serial entrepreneur, certified Maxwell team member, business coach, personal mindset coach, sales trainer, and speaker. So today, guys, I want to delve into a topic that every leader, entrepreneur, and individual striving for growth needs to understand. It's a topic that I personally feel is quite controversial. I say this only because so many people seem to have it so confused. It's confidence versus arrogance. The discussion isn't theoretical. It's practical and deeply personal because there's a real fine line between these two attitudes. They affect how we interact with others, how we lead, how we pursue success. There are many people that they'll accuse somebody of being arrogant because they just don't understand. They don't understand how close the two are related. And it's so easy to confuse confidence for arrogance. Confidence is often praised, but when taken too far, you have to be careful because it can easily turn into arrogance. Knowing how to distinguish between the two is essential to healthy leadership, personal relationships, and spiritual growth. So today we'll discuss the fine line in detail. And I'll also be tying in some biblical insights because, as you'll see, the Bible has a lot to say about both confidence and pride. As we begin today, just take a couple of minutes, guys, to just reflect on your own life. Are there areas where your confidence might have slipped into arrogance just a little? Or have you ever held back from fully stepping into confidence because you feared being perceived as arrogant? By the end of this episode, my hope, guys, is that you'll not only understand the difference, but also have practical tools to stay grounded in confidence without crossing that line into arrogance. So sit back, grab your coffee, and let's dive in. Confidence is a powerful and necessary trait for anyone who wants to succeed, not just in leadership, but in every area of life. At its core, confidence is the belief in your own ability to meet challenges and achieve goals. This belief, it isn't based on wishful thinking or arrogance. It's grounded in experience, preparation, a clear understanding of your strengths, your weaknesses. So what does healthy confidence look like? A confident person understands their strengths, but they're also aware of their weaknesses. They're open to feedback and recognize that personal growth is a lifelong journey. Confidence allows you to stay calm in difficult situations rather than shrinking in the face of adversity. Confident people rise to the occasion and seek solutions. One of the hallmarks of confidence, it isn't threatened by success of others. Instead, competing, confident individuals lift others up. They see success as something that can be shared and multiplied. You know, one of the examples I draw from in the Bible is Joshua. He exemplifies confidence. When God instructed Joshua to lead the Israelites into the promised land, he faced huge challenges. Yet, in Joshua 1:9, God says, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Joshua's confidence wasn't rooted in arrogance, but in faith. He trusted in God's promise and his own preparation as a leader. This kind of confidence is empowering. It allows you to step into the opportunities and face the challenges without fear. But it's important to remember that confidence is a balance. Be careful, guys, because as soon as we let it become self-centered or dismissive of others, it turns into something far less admirable, and that's arrogance. Arrogance, by contrast, is an exaggerated sense of one's own abilities or importance. It's not rooted in actual capability or faith, but in pride. While confidence opens doors and builds relationships, arrogance shuts others out. An arrogant person believes that they're much more superior to others, often disregarding input, collaboration, or the possibility that they could be wrong. So what does arrogance look like? Well, arrogance, it's important to understand that arrogance often masks insecurity. When people feel inadequate, they sometimes put on a facade of superiority to protect themselves from being vulnerable. An arrogant person rarely seeks or accepts any feedback. To them, admitting a mistake or a weakness is unacceptable because it threatens their inflated self-image. Unlike confident individuals, those who empower people around them, arrogant people tend to belittle or sabotage others only to maintain their own sense of superiority. They view other success as a threat. The scripture is filled with warnings about arrogance. In Proverbs 8:13, it says, "I hate pride and arrogance, evil behavior, and perversive speech." This reflects the destructive nature of arrogance. It leads to behaviors that harm others and blind us to our own faults. Similarly, in James 4:6, we're reminded, God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. God's opposition to pride is not about restricting us from success. Understand that. But it's about guiding us towards a path where success is sustainable and built on a foundation of integrity, humility, and service to others. Arrogance tends to isolate us from God's blessings because it blinds us to our need for his grace and the wisdom of others. So it's crucial to understand, guys, there's a really, really fine line as we go through this. Just think about how close to center the two are and how easily it is to slip into arrogance. Now, let's get to the heart of the issue. So when I talk about the fine line, how can we tell if your confidence is teetering over into arrogance? The key here is intention and impact. Are your actions driven by a desire to serve, improve, grow, or are they driven by the need of validation and recognition? Stop and think about that for a second. Are you driven by the need for validation and recognition? A confident person approaches their goals with the intention of adding value, not just to their own life, but to others as well. Whereas an arrogant person seeks to be noticed, admired, praised, and often, and sadly, at the expense of others. So how do your actions affect those around you? A confident leader builds trust and inspires others. They create an atmosphere where people feel valued, motivated to contribute. An arrogant person creates a culture of fear and competition. Their impact is often negative, even if they appear successful, outwardly. The difference between confidence and arrogance often shows up in how we treat others. For example, imagine at work, a scenario where you've got two leaders and they're given a challenging project. The confident leader approaches their team with openness and trust, believing that collaboration will lead to the absolute best outcome. They don't feel threatened by the expertise of others, and they're willing to admit when they need help. On the other hand, the arrogant leader approaches the project with a mindset of superiority. They dominate the conversations, they dismiss others' ideas, and refuse to admit when they don't know something. While they might get the project done, the long-term effects are extremely damaging. Team morale drops, innovation is stifled, and resentment just builds. Biblically, we see this distinction in how Jesus led versus how the Pharisees behaved. Jesus, though fully God and fully capable, he led with humility and confidence. He washed the feet of his disciples. He served the poor. He taught with authority, but without arrogance. The Pharisees, on the other hand, they were so convinced of their own righteousness that they couldn't even see the truth. Their arrogance blinded them to the need for repentance and ultimately led to their downfall. So where does humility come into play? Humility is the grounding force that keeps confidence from becoming arrogance. Humility is not the absence of confidence, nor is it thinking less of yourself. As C.S. Lewis famously said, humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. Let me read that again. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. A humble person is fully aware of their strengths and talents, but doesn't need to flaunt them. They don't seek validation from others because they're secure. They're secure in who they are. Humility allows us to approach life with a posture of learning and growth. It reminds us that no matter how talented or successful we become, there's always more to learn and always more ways to grow. And that ultimately, guys, should be our goal. How much more can I learn? How much more can I grow? Remember, this is a journey that we'll never reach the destination. Learn to love it, enjoy it, grow, learn. So now I want to revisit the story of David from the Bible, specifically his rise to kingship. David was anointed as king while still a shepherd boy, yet he waited years to take the throne, serving King Saul faithfully. Even when Saul sought to kill him, David's confidence was clear. He knew that he was chosen by God, but he also demonstrated profound humility by respecting Saul's position and trusting God's timing. How many of us struggle with God's timing? You know, as I sit and reflect, it's just one of those things where we want it now. We want it yesterday. But guys, we've got to realize it's in God's timing, not ours. And David's story illustrates this. Confidence and humility can coexist beautifully. His confidence in God's plan for his life did not lead to arrogance, but rather to be patient, obedient, trusting. In contrast, though, Saul, consumed by pride, became paranoid and lost his grip on both his kingship and his sanity. See, pride is a dangerous thing. It's the root of arrogance. When pride goes unchecked, it distorts how we see ourselves and others. Pride leads us to believe that we are self-made, our success is solely due to our efforts, and that we don't need help from anyone, God included. Pride doesn't just lead to a person's downfall. It affects those around them. An arrogant leader can create such a toxic environment where people feel undervalued, where all collaboration breaks down, where innovation is completely stifled. When we allow our pride to fuel our actions, we stop listening, we stop learning, and we stop growing. Completely putting an end to our journey. Proverbs 11:2 says, when pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. Wisdom comes from the humility of recognizing that we are not all-knowing or self-sufficient. This doesn't diminish our confidence, guys. It only enhances it by grounding it in the reality and aligning it with our higher purpose. That's why week after week I stress this. It's so important to be surround yourself with people that are like-minded, that will keep us in check. So how do we maintain healthy confidence while guarding against arrogance? Well, here's some practical steps that I did some research on. This will help ensure that our confidence remains grounded in humility. Take the time, guys. Take time regularly to reflect on your actions, your motivations, even your relationships. Are you constantly seeking validation? Or are you genuinely working towards growth and contribution? Surround yourself with people who will hold you accountable. People who are not afraid to call you out when you slip into arrogance. Confidence grows when we remain open and learning. Approach every situation with curiosity rather than assuming that you already know it all. This posture of curiosity not only keeps us humble, but it also deepens our expertise. One of the best ways to keep arrogance in check is to serve others. When you prioritize helping others succeed, your focus shifts away from self-promotion and toward genuine contribution. Look for opportunities to mentor, opportunities to volunteer, or collaborate in ways that benefit others, not us, but others. Practice gratitude. Gratitude is such a powerful antidote to pride. When you intentionally practice gratitude, both for your own achievements and for the contributions of others, you're reminded of the bigger picture. Success is rarely achieved alone, guys. Acknowledging the people and opportunities that have helped you along the way, it just keeps your confidence grounded. Be open to constructive criticism. Confident people embrace feedback, even when it's difficult to hear. Make a habit of asking for constructive criticism from trusted colleagues, mentors especially, and even friends. It not only helps you grow, but also keeps you humble, and it makes you aware of the areas where you really need to improve. Keep your faith in the center, at the center of it all. For those who walk in faith, keeping your relationship with God central to your life helps maintain perspective. When you place your trust in God rather than in your own abilities, your confidence is bolstered by a sense of purpose and a calling that transcends ego. It also reminds you that success is a gift and that with it comes a huge responsibility. And that responsibility is to lead with integrity and humility. So as I move more into the spiritual aspect of the conversation, it's important to acknowledge the role faith plays in balancing confidence and arrogance. For many, confidence is not solely a product of self-belief, but it's also rooted in a deep trust in God's plan. When we place our confidence in God, we're freed from the need to constantly prove ourselves. We're freed from the stress. I'm a firm believer that what's to be will be, whether I like it or not. But I've learned throughout the years to trust in God's plan. This confidence allows us to be bold, not because of our own strength, but because of the strength that we draw from our relationship with God. Jeremiah 17:7 says, "But blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him." This kind of confidence, guys, it's unshakable because it's not reliant on personal accomplishments. It's grounded in the assurance that no matter what challenges we face, we're not alone. And we don't have to carry the burden of success or failure by ourselves. Faith also keeps us grounded in humility. When we acknowledge that our talents, abilities, and successes are truly gifts from God, it becomes easier to remain humble, even in the face of great achievements. Humility, in turn, keeps our confidence in check and prevents it from becoming arrogance. So as I wrap up today, guys, this discussion on confidence versus arrogance, it's clear that the difference between the two lies in our motivations, our impact on others, and the posture of our hearts. Confidence, when rooted in humility, empowers us to lead, grow, and serve with authenticity. Arrogance, on the other hand, isolates us, and ultimately, it leads to our downfall. The challenge for each of us is to constantly check our hearts and our actions. Are we building others up? Or are we elevating ourselves at their expense? Are we seeking wisdom and growth? Or are we holding on to our own pride? By cultivating humility, seeking feedback, and keeping our faith central, we can walk confidently without falling into the trap of arrogance. As always, guys, thank you so much for joining me here in the Leader's Realm today. I really do hope that this discussion has inspired you to reflect on your own journey with confidence and has given you practical tools to maintain that balance, the balance that leads to lasting success. Remember, true leadership comes not from asserting dominance, but from serving others and leading with integrity and humility. Guys, if this episode resonated with you, please share it with a friend, colleague, family member. And as always, don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe for more episodes on leadership, personal growth, walking confidently in your purpose. So until next time, guys, this is Tony Cammarata. And remember, stay fast, stay fluid, stay flexible. Be the absolute best that you can be, because your best is yet to come.